The city of San Antonio and the firefighters union trade blows in the latest round of negotiations. An Alamo City serial killer is sentenced to 2 life terms. And Governor Abbott takes aim at San Antonio and Austin paid sick leave. This is your Express Briefing podcast for Wednesday, February 20th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. And get each day's top news and sports headlines delivered to your inbox at expressnews.com/newsletters. While politics briefly inflamed the second day of negotiations between city officials and firefighters union representatives, Tuesday, both sides were able to agree to several non-controversial parts of a new contract, addressing items like non-discrimination clauses and a prohibition on strikes that are already prohibited by state law for public employees. However, these agreements are only setting the stage for contentious debates on wages and health care that are expected to begin next week. Earlier this month, city officials and the San Antonio Professional Firefighters Association ended a years-long standoff, meeting for the first time last week to begin ironing out a new contract. And Tuesday's session at the convention center marked the first real progress on the actual documents. But the two sides did trade a few blows on Proposition C, an amendment approved in November that gives the union sole authority to declare an impasse and bring negotiations to arbitration, though ultimately agreed to include language in their ground rules saying the negotiations would comply with both Proposition C and state law. The bargaining teams will resume discussions about relatively agreeable articles Friday and are expected to unveil their first substantive economic proposals next Tuesday, when firefighters will likely seek pay raises that remedy their 4-year wage freeze, and the city will seek to amend the firefighters' health care plan to rein in costs that the city says are not sustainable. A San Antonio man who confessed to being a serial killer has been sentenced to 2 life terms in the rape and strangulation deaths of 5 women. 32-year-old Johnny Joe Avalos was arrested in April 2015 and charged with raping and strangling 15-year-old Natalie Chavez, whose naked body was found under a bridge on the city's west side in December 2014. Authorities would eventually find 3 other victims ranging from 28 to 46 years of age, and Avalos was later linked to the death of a 25-year-old, whose body was found 4 years earlier in October 2012. Most of the victims had engaged in prostitution in neighborhoods where Avalos lived. Former Bexar County District Attorney Nicola Hood initially pursued the death penalty against Avalos, but dropped it after the man's mental capacity was challenged, though he was found to be competent to stand trial despite being intellectually disabled. Because the state did not seek the death penalty, each life sentence will be served at the same time without the possibility of parole. While authorities never used the term serial killer in reference to Avalos as they investigated the killings, a statement by now Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez has used the term, and at Tuesday's sentencing hearing, prosecutor David Lunan confirmed serial killer was appropriate for the crimes. And if made law, a bill backed by Republican Governor Greg Abbott would likely kill a San Antonio ordinance that requires private employers to provide paid sick leave to workers, and also block any similar policies in the future. The governor has been touting the legislation at recent speeches before business groups, in a move that sets up the latest clash over a local control matter pitting state lawmakers against Democrat-backed initiatives in Texas cities. While cities like Austin and San Antonio have passed sick leave ordinances, following a legal challenge by business groups that drew support from Attorney General Ken Paxton, in November a state appeals court found Austin's policy unconstitutional. San Antonio's ordinance took effect after that ruling on January 1st of this year, though enforcement isn't set to begin until later this summer. A June report by the Center for Public Policy Priorities shows an estimated 4.3 million Texans, roughly 40% of the state's workforce, don't have access to paid sick time, and employees without the benefit are more likely to show up to work ill or let sick children go to school. While no federal law requires employers to provide paid sick leave, at least 10 states have crafted their own paid sick leave legislation. And that's your daily San Antonio Express briefing for Wednesday, February 20th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts.